All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar tonight about play. This is a hot topic. We know that a lot of parents, I guess, as you become an adult, you forget how to play, right? It's not something that comes natural to you. You don't just think, oh, play is so easy to do. It's something that you kind of have to reteach yourself to do and your brain to do. So we wanted to give you some tips tonight about ways that you can be successful with play with your kids. So we'll start with an introduction. My name is Hyland. I'm the Associate Clinical Director for Speech Language Pathology here at MeBe. You will hear an accent. That's because I'm originally from Alabama, but I have been living in California for quite some time. And I have been working with kids with autism for many, many, many years. I honestly can't even tell you how many years. I probably should have thought about that. But for a long time, and before I moved to California, I worked at Vanderbilt University in their autism center. So I am definitely really excited to work with this population and very grateful to be here and to be at MeBe, this amazing company, and help all of our families.
Yeah, and I am Sarah West. I'm the clinical director of ABA in the Bay Area. I've been with MeBe since April of last year, but if you ask anyone, I have been looking to come to MeBe forever. I absolutely love working here, and I got the privilege to open up the Bay Area last year. So here we are.
Yay. Okay, so what is MeBe? We get this question a lot. MeBe is about being me. So our focus here at MeBe is that we want every child to find their unique voice. We want them to be able to be themselves. So we want to help give them the skill sets to be successful in whatever they want to be. So that's where MeBe came from. So we do integrate research-based strategies with personal attention to each child to provide therapy that's engaging, flexible, and customized to your child's needs. So it's very individualized across all of our programs. And that's really something that we pride ourselves in, is being able to tailor each program and each goal to the child's specific needs and the family's specific needs.
And our services, so we have ABA, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy, and we provide telehealth in almost all of our locations.
We also have feeding therapy. That's not listed on there, but we do provide feeding therapy services as well. And like Sarah said, we do a lot of telehealth across all locations, as well as in clinic services in our San Diego and Carlsbad locations and Seattle. And there we are at our locations. So these are all of our locations currently where we are seeing clients: San Diego, Los Angeles, Bay Area, Seattle, Denver, Phoenix, and we are actually starting to see clients soon in the Austin, Texas region. So please feel free to look us up, or if you have friends that are interested in need services in any of these areas, please tell them to contact us or look us up on our website.
And follow us. We do lots of posts on Instagram and Facebook. We love doing these for you all. And you can always leave us comments or responses on the videos we've done so that we can get an idea of what you guys are looking more to learn more about.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to kind of get into the meat of today's topics. So we're going to talk about, why is play important? How do I play with my child? What are some common mistakes that parents make when they're playing that might kind of push their child away from play? Approaches for successful play interactions, and then some helpful tips. Just one quick disclaimer. Sarah and I are both trained in some various programs that work specifically with play. One of them is called Project Impact, and another one is called Hand in More Than Words. We use a lot of their strategies that we have learned in our play. And we use their strategies a lot in our therapy. So you're going to hear about some different strategies that we use that are involved in both of these programs. If you want more information about those programs, you can definitely Google them and see who providers are in your area specific to those. But these are just some tips and tricks kind of based off of those programs.
All right. So why is play so important? Play skills are closely related to language development and social skills. They help build some skills like problem solving, imagination, and motor skills. We have two types of play too. So we have a social play where it involves an interaction with others for enjoyment, and we have toy play. So these are kind of the two areas we'll focus on today.
Yeah, and play is so crucial for just development in general, as you can see. So developing any sort of social skill and any sort of language, you have to be able to play and interact with the world around you. So a child's job is to play. Just like we have jobs we go to every day, their only job is to play. So that's why it's so important for us to focus on that with our kiddos, to help build those skills. So these are some really common mistakes that parents make. We all do it. Adults, when we get down on the floor and try to play with a kiddo, these are mistakes we all make. I still catch myself doing these things sometimes, and I just, it's like, Kylan, you know not to do that. But these are some things that a lot of parents don't know. So number one, don't say. Model words as if your child could say them. So, for example, a lot of parents, teachers, even some therapists will say go, say bye-bye. And a lot of our kids, particularly our kids that have autism or have echolalia, right? So they tend to imitate things exactly as we say them. So next thing you know, you might hear your child saying, say bye, say thank you, instead of the actual words. So we want to model the words as if they would say them. So, bye, Sarah. I want popcorn. Give me car. So instead of saying, say, give me car, we want to just model the words as if the child would say them, and then they will start to imitate those utterances and start using them in a more functional way. This next one is great too. Why questions are not the answer. Another big mistake that I think we all make is we quiz our kids. We sit them on the floor to play, and then we say, do you want red? Do you want green? What is this called? What is it? What sound does it make? Where does it live? Who is it with? Where does it go? Like, whoa, so overwhelmed, right? Imagine if someone walked up to you and just started saying in a foreign language, where are you going? Who are you with? What time is it? What time are we supposed to be there? You would start feeling so overwhelmed, right? So a lot of our kids that have language issues or attention issues or autism, whatever their diagnosis may be, when we start piling on all these questions and demands, we lose them. They don't understand what we're saying, why we're saying it, and we're quizzing them. This isn't a quiz. This is supposed to be fun. Play is supposed to be fun. Also, additional direction often results in a loss of engagement. So a lot of times parents will say to us, they just don't want to play with me. They want to play with you. And that's the last thing we want. I guarantee you your child really wants to play with you more than anyone else in the world. But when we sit down with them and we're constantly putting this pressure on them and these demands on them, of course, they're going to disengage and be overwhelmed.
And then another thing to add is a lot of the time, maybe some of our kiddos can't play for an extended period of time. So another common mistake is kind of just pushing to their threshold, whereas we'd actually prefer to cut it off right before that threshold. That way our play always ends on a positive note. So maybe if your kiddo can only play for 4 minutes, then we're going to stop the play at like 3 minutes, right? That way, you can have that positive interaction. And if that seems too short for you and you really want to play a lot more in the day, that's fine. We're all home a lot right now. You could probably put that 3 minutes in a couple times in the day and then really get to hit on this skill.
Mm-hmm. So tip number one, we are ready to play. We're at home, we're with our kids. We're feeling good. We're setting the tone. The first thing you have to do, guys, is set up the environment for success. Your environment is everything. So we want to set up the space where interacting with the child limits distractions. Okay, so we want to turn off the TV. We want to choose a space for playing. We want to put away extra toys. We want to sit face to face with our child. Okay, this might be the most important thing to remember because it helps with engagement. A lot of times our kids, and we'll touch base on this a little bit later in the presentation, but a lot of times our kids want to sit in our laps. It's so cute. It's so fun. We want to cuddle them and squeeze them. But then, especially our kids who have difficulty with play, we want to sit across from them so that we're eye to eye. They can see us, they can focus in on us. We want to read our child's behavioral cues. So their arousal level, are they super tired or are they super, super bouncy and energetic? So what do we need to do to help them reach their optimal arousal level, right? Do we need to adjust the lights? Maybe turn the lights down, maybe turn the lights on to wake them up. Do we need to go outside to kind of get them moving to wake them up? Or should we go in a room that's maybe smaller and there's not as much going on? And then we want to include predictable routines and toys that they enjoy regularly. So the goal is to build engagement with play. That's the goal, is to have fun. Number one goal, have fun. It doesn't matter what you're playing with. It can be a box, it can be a pair of shoes, it can be a toy, but the goal is to have fun. So we want to do that by bringing in toys and routines that your child likes, and then controlling the rest of that environment. So I will tell parents a lot of times when and Sarah can testify to this too, when we go in home or when we talk to them, we will see just toys everywhere, or a whole room that's just filled with toys. I get it, parents. Ideally, that's great because your kids can just do their thing and they've got all the toys and it's easy peasy. But if we're working on engagement and play and communication, we want to put those toys away in bins, or we want to put them on a shelf. So in sight, but kind of out of reach. And we want to rotate through the toys that we have out for them so that they're always learning and always growing. And they're also able to explore different types of toys. So really the environment is crucial to success with play. Okay.
All right. So we want to adjust our animation, right? So Hyland was just talking about in the other one to match kind of where our child's at. So using our big gestures, big facial expressions, increase the variability in vocal quality. These are all huge things to do. And then on the flip side, maybe we need to gear it down, right? Maybe our child does prefer that whisper or neutral voice. It all depends on our children. So Hyland can probably take it away a little more on the animation.
So I love animation, if you couldn't tell. I'm a very animated person. It is so, so important. So there are so many times that I've been in therapy and I come in and maybe a therapist is asking me for help with a kiddo or a parent, and I get down on the floor and I get big with my face and my words and my voice. And all of a sudden, this kid who is not looking at anything or anyone in the room is staring right at me. That's animation. So the sillier, the goofier that you feel, that means you're doing it right. So we've got to be animated because, again, a lot of our kids, especially on this autism spectrum, they need that high kind of animation to gain their attention. So what I like to do with parents sometimes is it's a little exercise where I'm going to show you two different ways that you could if I were to read an ad to you or try to be selling you something, and you can kind of think about what would be better. So I could do this. I could say, Patient Pop, our healthcare specific marketing software and targeting advertising help you attract more customers. Or I could say, Patient Pop, our healthcare specific marketing software and targeted advertising help you attract more customers. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Which one are you going to listen to? Even though I'm silly and I sound ridiculous, you're going to tune more into me with my animation than you are someone who's not animated. So yes, I sound super silly doing this activity, but it just is a good illustration of what we mean by really working on your animation because it's so important to building that engagement.
All right. So we talked about this earlier, that sitting face to face is kind of the most important thing here. Highland said it before, right? We love to cuddle our kiddos, leave them in our lap, but it is really hard, especially when our kiddos have problems with joint attention, to turn our head and get engaged with mom while we're playing this game. So we really want to get on our child's level, right? If they're sitting at the table, go ahead and sit on a smaller chair so that you're kind of more eye to eye with them. Or if your kiddo is laying on the ground and rolling that car on the table, you're also going to get on the table and put your face there so that your eyes can come into contact more often than they would if I was kind of above you and I have to now look up. Face-to-face is so important because it allows you to be an active partner in their play and increase the opportunities to engage in interactions.
Mm-hmm. So also the next thing that we're going to do is after we've set up our environment, we've got our animation geared up, we're face-to-face with our kiddo, is we're going to follow your child's lead. Yes, this means let your child choose the activity. Again, as adults and parents and therapists, we tend to want to control the environment entirely because they're kids. So we think we should. We think we should pick out every single toy and activity. Wrong. We want them to choose the activity. We want to play how they are playing with the toy. So like Sarah said, if they're laying down with their head on the table and pushing the car back and forth, we want to imitate that across from them and get our car and lay down and roll the car. If they're jumping around from toy to toy, that's okay. Again, another thing that as adults we tend to hyper focus on is, their attention and they're going from this to this to this, and it's so hard for me to play with them. They're kids. Let them do it. So you go from toy to toy to toy with them. You physically follow them and let them pick out what they want. So wait and watch. Allow your child to initiate and learn the interaction. Allow them to kind of come to you or pick out the toys. So when you sit your child down next to toys, wait for him to choose a toy before starting or even talking to him. Let him see what he's interested in. And then you're able to come in and model language, play with them, and build that interaction. If the child isn't including you, then join what he's doing no matter what. So if a child's looking at pictures, don't keep calling him over to play with a toy. Instead, just sit down with him and look at the pictures. Right? That's going to make him want to play with you more. So joining in his or her play, regardless if it's toys or if they're just running around in circles, playing tag, or even if they're playing with what we call non-toys. So toys like a cardboard box or a bottle top, things that are just kind of random, that's fine. That's what they're interested in. So follow their lead, get into their world, show them that you're interested in what they're doing versus putting demands on them and trying to get them to interact with you, because I guarantee you're going to have a lot more success building engagement when you actually let them take the lead in the play.
All right. And so like we've been saying, we want to imitate our child. This encourages interaction with you. It increases play skills. It helps share fun experiences and develop spontaneous communication. Even vocalizations, right? If my kiddo says ah, I'm also going to say ah. If they're saying Bubbles toy car, I'm also going to say Bubbles toy car. We want to imitate words, and we're going to use language only about 1 to 2 words more than they have if we are going to expand on it. We're going to imitate play actions, right? If my kiddo is repeatedly dropping a ball in a container, I'm definitely grabbing a ball and dropping it in a container. It can be helpful to have your own container. Maybe your child doesn't necessarily like you putting the ball in their container, so you can have your own set of things and still be engaging in the play with them. Another thing to keep in mind is we're going to only imitate appropriate behavior. So I know a common question can be, what if I don't like all of the things that my child is doing? Well, you can just imitate what you do want to see more of.
So she's imitating exactly what he's doing. She's getting great eye contact. This goes back and forth for several minutes. So she's building this engagement routine, or this engaging routine with him. And this is going to allow her to then model language and build upon that. So that's how our kids, and we'll get more into this too, learn language and learn social skills, is when they're engaged in play. If we're not engaged or we're not interested or we're not motivated by something, we're not going to learn about it. It's the same with adults, right? We have to be motivated and engaged in it. Otherwise, everything that we're hearing or seeing is meaningless. It just doesn't sink in. We're not getting it. So I love how she just took colored blocks, set them up across from him, and imitated him, and did the same things that he was doing with the eggs to get this beautiful kind of back and forth interaction. So this leads us to communication. So modeling appropriate communication teaches the child that their actions have meaning. So when we're essentially narrating, I think a lot of people call it narrating, what our child is doing in play, we are showing them that the things they are doing with the play have meaning. And this is how we describe it. We always want to model a level slightly above the child's language level. So I think of it as like a ladder. If our child is saying single words, we want to model 2-word utterances. If our child is not yet talking, we want to model single words. We want to model words that are appropriate for the context and are appropriate for what they're doing to give them those opportunities to then learn that language. We want to respond to all forms of communication as meaningful. So this is kind of also a mistake that a lot of parents and therapists even sometimes can do is we expect a target, or we expect a specific word, or we expect our child to imitate a word or a sign or whatever it is we're working on. And we forget that the point of it is to remain engaged, right? So we're going to respond to all attempts to communicate as meaningful by reinforcing. So if our child even looks at us with eye contact, is reaching for something, is taking you to things, is vocalizing with eye contact, those are all intentional forms of communication. So we want to respond to that and then give our child a word they could say in that moment, or model a sign, or both as a way to communicate and then reinforce their communication. So say it like your child would. That's what I teach all of my parents. Give a model that you would want him or her to communicate and then reinforce, because we can't make our kids talk. We can't make our kids communicate, but that intent, when it's there, we want to let them know, hey, we hear you. We are here to support you. And we want you to continue looking at us, taking us to things, putting our hand on things. And then we can teach you in that moment another appropriate way to communicate. So we also want to tempt the child to communicate. This is my favorite thing. We call these communication temptations that I tell parents. So as we're playing with toys or we're doing people games. So people games are things like peekaboo or tag. Those are games where your child has to have a person or has to have you to actually participate in the game. There are so many things that we can do to tempt our kids to communicate. So we want to use a gesture, facial expression, or an anticipatory phrase. So I'm gonna get you. Or ready, set, go. So that anticipatory phrase helps build up that interaction. Also, it allows them a chance to fill in that word. Right? It gives them a chance to communicate back with you as a form of requesting. We can playfully block toys like, oh no, I got it. Or sometimes those pop-up toys that we have, I'll kind of like, smash one down and hold it down, and a kid will look at me like, oh, what'd you do? Open. Or bear, where are you? Or we want to accidentally maybe leave off a piece of a puzzle. Oh no, where'd it go? Right? So we're kind of sabotaging the situation to get them to continue to engage with us. Set up a reason to ask for help. So putting toys in containers, so they have to ask for help to open. Putting things up on a shelf, or maybe you choose to play with a toy that has an on and off switch or has parts to it or pieces to it where they have to ask for help, like a train set. That kind of lures them back to us and draws their attention back to us for requesting help. Control access to preferred items. So that's kind of the same thing as asking for help, right? So if we're having snacks and you want to work on your child requesting a certain snack even, put it in a container, right? You're controlling access to it. Put their highly preferred toys up on a shelf. Put them in a box. Put them in a bin. Give portions of items. So a puzzle is a great example. So maybe give them a couple of pieces, but then you have the rest. Then you can give them choices, bear or horse, right? You have access to it, so they have to come to you for help. And then silly situations. So do something silly or unexpected with a toy. So I love to get a block or get something and put it on my head and do an ha, 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 choo, and then it falls down on the floor. That's so silly and kids love it. It gets their attention. They are thinking, what in the world is going on? Next thing you know, they're laughing. Maybe you want to put your socks on your hands instead of your feet. Is this where they go? Is this it? So anything that we can do to be extra silly and gain their attention and again, maintain a back and forth interaction is going to help them learn and give them opportunities to communicate. So these are just like some of our favorite little tips to use and give families to draw the child to you. So they need you. They need to communicate with you to get what they want.
All right. So putting it all together, the most important thing, right, is that you're both having fun. So that would be the number one rule, but then we want to set up our environment for success, make those modifications as needed, face-to-face positioning. So not in the lap anymore. This is the time that we're really going to get face-to-face with our child. We're going to increase our animation. We're all going to be clones of Highland walking around with our kiddos, and we're going to let our child take the lead, right? And the most important thing with that is just stop and wait. Look at what your child's doing and then join in with that. Provide opportunities to communicate through modeling, controlling access, controlling portions, being silly, and then again, just have fun.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being with us. These are our tips. These are only a few things, to be honest with you. And again, it goes back to some trainings that we have been a part of. This is in no part an official training of any sort of Project Impact or Hand in More Than Word strategies. These are just kind of things based off of those programs that we've learned and implemented in our therapies that we think are really beneficial for families. And again, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but we wanted to just give you a few things that we know are really helpful for us and have been helpful for our patients. We would love for you to contact us if you have any questions. Follow us on Instagram for more tips. And please feel free to reach out with us.